Listen, not just with your ears, but with the part of you that's still breathing beneath the weight of it all. The part that refuses to be buried, the part that, despite everything, is still alive. Because this isn't just another story. This isn't a gentle reminder. This is the moment where the old you dies and something stronger takes its place. You have been standing in the ruins for too long, staring at the ashes of what was, circling the ghosts of what should have been. You have whispered every excuse, replayed every wound like a broken record, let the past coil itself around your neck like a noose. But hear me now. There is no one coming to cut you free. There is no savior on the horizon. The cavalry is not on its way, and before you break, before you tell me you have tried, before you list all the ways you have already fought and lost, understand this: you are not lost. When you are lingering, and there is a difference, you have let the betrayal define you, let the pain whisper your name and convince you it is who you are. You have let the hands that hurt you shape the way you see yourself. Let the voices that lied to you become the ones you trust most. You have spent too many nights convincing yourself that this is all there is, that the tide has already swallowed you whole, that the current is too strong, the shore too far. But what if you're wrong? What if the tide was never meant to drown you, but to cleanse you? What if the breaking was never meant to end you, but to reveal you? What if the betrayal wasn't a tombstone, but a doorway? You are standing at the threshold now, and you have a choice. Stay here, in the wreckage, in the bitterness, in the aching cycle of replaying the past until you have nothing left, or step through. Step through and burn every bridge that leads back to the version of you that begged for someone to save them. Step through and become the storm that no one saw coming. You see, they thought they broke you. They thought they ended you. They thought that when they left, when they lied, when they shattered every piece of trust you had left, that you would stay in the rubble. They expected you to disappear beneath the weight of what they did. They counted on it. But they forgot something, didn't they? They forgot what happens when you push someone too far. They forgot that the ones who endure betrayal, the ones who taste the depths of devastation and survive it, do not come back the same. They do not return soft. They do not return tame. They come back like fire. And you, oh, you are just starting to burn. This is not the end. This is the moment where everything shifts. This is the second before the storm hits, the breath before the war cry, the pause before the impossible begins. You feel it, don't you? The stir beneath your ribs, the whisper that is no longer pleading, but demanding. You are more than what they did to you, more than the days you spent trying to be enough for people who never deserve you. Do whatever you have to do. Put your dharma into action to cultivate your light. Level up more than the silence you drowned in, the nights that swallowed you whole, the prayers that went unanswered. You are not what they did. You are what you do next. So tell me, are you ready to turn the tide? Or will you keep pretending the water isn't rising? Because here's the truth. You were never meant to stay where you are. You were meant to move, to rise, to leave the past gasping in your wake as you carve a new path through the storm. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. But time is running out. So what will it be? They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from those closest to you, but that's a lie. Betrayal cuts the deepest when it comes from the hands you trusted most. The ones you would have sworn on your own soul would never turn against you, and yet they did. Maybe it was in the way they walked away without looking back. Maybe it was in the words they threw like daggers, slicing through the fragile fabric of the life you thought was real. Maybe it wasn't even a single moment, but a slow erosion, a quiet undoing that you didn't notice until you were standing in the ruins, wondering how the hell you didn't see it coming. The weight of it sits in your chest like lead, the kind of heaviness that doesn't leave when you wake up, the kind that doesn't ease with time, no matter how many days pass. It's the echo of all the things you never said, all the ways you swallowed your pain just to keep the peace. It's the realization that everything you built was never real, not to them at least. The history you cherished, the moments you thought meant something, the words that once felt like promises, shattered. They left you carrying the wreckage alone, carrying the weight of every why that will never be answered. My heart almost threatens to tear from joy, and every time, it does. Betrayal doesn't just hurt. It rewires you. It slithers into your mind, plants doubt where there was once certainty, turns your reflection into something unrecognizable. Maybe they told you that you weren't enough and you believed them. Maybe they showed you that love was conditional and you swallowed the lie that you had to earn it. Maybe they made you feel small and visible, like you were nothing more than an afterthought, and you started moving through life that way, hesitant, apologetic, waiting for permission to exist. The cruelest thing about betrayal is that it never arrives alone. It drags behind it an entire army of ghosts. Insecurity, self-blame, bitterness, fear. Fear that you will never be loved that deeply again. Fear that maybe they were right about you. Fear that no matter how far you run, you will never escape the version of yourself they made you believe in. And let's be honest, there were nights when you let that fear win, when you convinced yourself that the problem was you, that maybe you deserved to be abandoned, to be lied to be discarded like you were nothing. There were nights when you looked in the mirror and saw nothing but the failure they painted you to be. Nights when you thought, if the people who knew me best could do this to me, then maybe I was never worth keeping in the first place. But here's what they don't tell you about betrayal. It's never just about one person. No, the truth is uglier than that. It's not just about the friend who turned their back on you, the lover who walked away, the family that never made space for you. Betrayal is bigger. It's a system. It's a belief. It's the stories you were told about love, loyalty, and trust. The ones you clung to because they were supposed to mean something. It's the way the world teaches you that good people don't get left behind, that love is supposed to be unconditional, that if you give enough, if you sacrifice enough, if you love enough, people will stay. And then reality rips those illusions away, leaving you cold, leaving you raw, leaving you questioning every truth you ever held in your hands. You want to name the villain? Fine, let's name them. Fear. The fear that grips your throat every time you try to trust again. The fear that whispers, what if this happened? The fear that keeps you guarded, keeps you distant, keeps you from ever letting anyone close enough to hurt you again. Self-doubt. The voice in your head that repeats their lies like a broken mantra. The one that makes you question if you're too much or not enough. If you deserved what happened. If maybe, just maybe, the people who betrayed you saw something in you that you still refuse to acknowledge. And them. The ones who smiled in your face and stabbed you in the back. The ones who made you feel safe just long enough to pull the ground from beneath you. The ones who convinced you they cared, only to turn their backs the moment it became inconvenient. But let's not forget the hardest truth of all, the one that no one wants to hear. No one is coming to save you. Read that again. Let it sink in. You can spend the rest of your life waiting for closure, waiting for an apology, waiting for someone to make it right. You can keep hoping that one day they'll realize what they did, that they'll wake up and finally see your worth. But let me ask you, how much longer are you willing to wait? How much more of your life are you willing to waste in the shadow of what they did? Because the world doesn't stop for your pain. It doesn't pause to let you heal. It doesn't hold your hand while you put the pieces back together. Life moves forward whether you're ready or not. And the only person who can decide whether you move with it is you. So, here's your choice. You can stay here, drowning in the questions that will never be answered, clinging to the pain like it's the last thing tying you to them. Or you can do something they never expected. You can let go, you can rise, you can take everything they took from you and build something they can never touch. No one is coming to save you. But maybe that's the best news you've ever heard, because it means the only person you have to rely on is the one staring back at you in the mirror. And that person, they are capable of more than they ever imagined. So tell me, are you ready to take your power back, or are you still waiting for permission? There comes a point where the weight becomes too much. A point where even breathing feels like a battle, where the air itself turns heavy in your lungs. This is rock bottom, not the dramatic kind they show in movies, not the kind that comes with an instant revelation or a neatly packaged lesson. No, this is the kind that creeps in slowly, suffocating you inch by inch until one day you wake up and realize you don't even recognize yourself anymore. You don't even fight it at first, you just let it happen. You let the days blur together, let the numbness settle in, let the world pass you by like you're nothing more than a ghost haunting your own life. It's almost easier this way, because fighting means hoping, and hoping means opening yourself up to more pain, and hasn't there already been enough of that? So, you tell yourself it's better to just exist, to go through the motions, to smile when necessary, to nod when expected. But inside there's nothing but silence, the kind of silence that wraps around you like a second skin, that makes the loneliness even louder. Because that's the cruelest part of it all, isn't it? The isolation. Betrayal doesn't just break trust, it builds walls. Walls so high that even if someone wanted to reach you, they couldn't. And truth be told, you don't even know if you'd let them. Because people mean risk. People mean opening up, only to be left behind again. People mean pain. So you convince yourself you're better off alone, that this is just how it is now. That life has divided itself into two halves. The before, when you still had something to believe in, and the after, where nothing feels real anymore. And the world keeps moving. It doesn't care that you're broken. It doesn't pause to acknowledge your grief, doesn't slow down to give you time to put yourself back together. No one stops to ask why you've disappeared into yourself. No one notices that the light in your eyes has dimmed. You hear them, though. The well-meaning voices that tell you to move on, to get over it, to stop dwelling on things that aren't that serious. And maybe that's the part that stings the most. How easily they dismiss the very thing that shattered you. How quickly they expect you to forget, as if betrayal is something you can shake off like a bad dream. But what they don't understand is that it's not just about what happened. It's about what it took from you. The trust, the innocence, the belief that people mean what they say, that love is safe, that if you give enough, if you try hard enough, people will stay. So you stay stuck. You replay it all over and over, like an old tape you can't turn off. You dissect every moment, every conversation, searching for the exact second. Everything started to fall apart. Maybe if you find it, you'll find a way to undo it. Maybe if you understand it, you'll finally be able to move on. But that's the trap, isn't it? The past is a cruel thing. It doesn't change no matter how many times you rewind it. It doesn't soften. It doesn't offer new endings. It just plays on repeat, tightening its grip until you start to believe that there is no future, that this is all there is. And then comes the moment, the quiet, terrifying moment where you wonder if it's even worth it anymore. If fighting to heal, fighting to move forward, fighting to feel anything at all is worth the exhaustion. The moment where giving up feels less like a choice and more like the only option left. Maybe it would be easier to just stop trying, to fade away, to let the world keep spinning without you. Because really, would it even make a difference? Would anyone notice? Would anyone care? And maybe you don't say these thoughts out loud, but they live in you. They whisper in the back of your mind, waiting for the days when you're too tired to argue with them. And on those days, you almost listen. Almost. But let me ask you something. What if this isn't the end? What if everything you've been through, everything you've survived, isn't proof that you're broken, but proof that you're still here? That despite everything, despite the betrayals, the losses, the nights that almost swallowed you whole, you are still breathing. What if the story isn't over yet? What if the version of you that you thought was gone isn't dead, just waiting for you to realize that you don't have to stay here, that you don't have to live in the wreckage, trapped in the past, that you can get up, that you can turn the page, that you can rewrite the ending. So, tell me, are you ready to find out what happens next? Or will you let the pain write the final chapter? Something shifts. Subtle at first, a whisper beneath the weight, a flicker in the darkness, so quiet you almost miss it. But it's there, a single, defiant no. No, I will not stay here. No, I will not be defined by what they did. No, I will not let their betrayal be the last thing written in my story. And just like that, the tide begins to turn. Because here's the truth that they never wanted you to see. They took your past, but they do not own your future. They do not get to decide who you become. They do not get to dictate how this ends. They walked away, they lied, they betrayed, but you are still here. And that means the power is still yours. At first, the realization is jarring, because you spent so long believing you were powerless, that you were broken beyond repair, that the damage was too great to come back from. But now, you begin to see it differently. The pain, it didn't destroy you, it sharpened you. Betrayal is a blade, but you get to decide how it's used. You can keep turning it inward, keep cutting yourself on the past, keep reopening the wounds they left, or you can take that blade and forge something new. Armor, strength, an unshakable force that nothing and no one can break again. And that's when the illusions start to burn. All those lies they planted in your mind, that you weren't enough, that you were disposable, that you had to prove your worth to be loved, they disintegrate in the fire. You see them for what they were. Chains designed to keep you small, to keep you doubting, to keep you from realizing the power that was always inside you. But now you are burning it all down. The version of you that begged for answers, gone. The version of you that stayed up at night wondering what you did wrong, gone. The version of you that believed their betrayal was a reflection of your worth, gone. And in their place, a warrior. Not the kind untouched by pain, not the kind who never fell, no. You are something greater. You are someone who rose from the ashes, someone who took their wounds and turned them into wisdom, someone who looked at the people who tried to break them and whispered, "Watch me." Because real strength, it was never about being unbroken. It was about standing up even when you were shattered. It was about learning to walk through fire without letting it consume you. It was about turning your scars into proof that you survived. And maybe the most powerful realization of all, you were never abandoned. You were set free. Free from the people who couldn't love you the way you deserved. Free from the illusions that kept you chasing validation that was never coming. Free from the toxic cycles, the endless justifications, the exhausting need to prove your worth. They thought they were discarding you, but what they were really doing was releasing you. And now, for the first time in a long time, you see it clearly. The past does not own you. The pain does not define you. The only thing that matters now is the choice you make next. And you You are choosing to rise. They thought you were weak. They mistook your silence for surrender, your pain for powerless. They saw you broken and believed you would stay that way. But weakness is only what they see before the storm hits. And you are the storm. This is the moment, the one they never saw coming, the one even you didn't see coming. The moment where the past no longer pulls you under, where the weight no longer crushes you, where you realize they never destroyed you, they only forced you into the fire. And what happens when something is thrown into the fire? It burns, it melts, it transforms. This is your phoenix moment. The moment you rise from the ashes, not in spite of what happened, but because of it. Every scar on your soul, every wound they left, every betrayal that almost broke you, they are not signs of your defeat, they are proof of your rebirth. You see, pain is a cruel teacher, but it is also the most powerful one. And now you use it. You turn betrayal into fuel. Every time they doubted you, every time they tried to diminish you, every time they walked away and expected you to crumble, it becomes energy. It becomes fire in your veins, a force pushing you forward, a relentless drive to become untouchable. And that's the shift, isn't it? No more begging, no more waiting, no more looking back, because they don't hold the keys anymore. They don't get to decide how this ends. They don't get to live in your head, rent-free, whispering lies about your worth. You decide, you choose, you move. You build unshakable resilience. And here's how. First, you change the way you speak to yourself. No more repeating their lies. No more calling yourself broken, unworthy, unlovable. No more shrinking to fit into places that suffocate you. You rewrite the narrative. You tell yourself the truth, the real truth, that you are unstoppable, that you are powerful, that you are becoming something they will regret walking away from. Second, you stop explaining yourself. Stop justifying your healing. Stop seeking validation from people who never deserved access to you in the first place. The people who truly care will understand. The ones who don't, they were never meant to stay. And third, you never let yourself be played again. Not by them, not by anyone like them. Because now you see the signs. You recognize manipulation, deceit, false promises. You know what betrayal looks like, and you are no longer afraid to walk away at the first red flag. This is your final test. Will you step into your power, or will you let the past own you? Will you use what happened as a weapon to carve a new path, or will you let it weigh you down for the rest of your life? Because make no mistake, this moment is a crossroads. The past is behind you, the pain is behind you. The only thing that matters now is what you choose to do next. And you are choosing power. The past is a story that was written in pain, in loss, in betrayal. But here's what no one ever told you. You hold the pen now. For too long, you've been reading the same chapter, reliving the same wounds, carrying the same weight. But what happens when you decide that the past is just that, the past? What happens when you realize that it only has power if you allow it to? You rewrite the script. You erase the narrative that says you are broken, beyond repair. You tear out the pages that told you love must be earned through suffering. You burn the words that tried to convince you that betrayal defined you, because it doesn't. It never did. You define you. So now, the real question. What comes next? What do you do with this power, this clarity, this new version of yourself that has been forged through the fire? You live with purpose. You stop waiting. Stop hesitating. Stop letting fear whisper doubts into your ear. You step forward, not cautiously, not apologetically, but with certainty. You walk into every room knowing exactly who you are. And more than that, you break the cycle. Never again. Never again will you give your power away. Never again will you stay where you are not valued. Never again will you allow someone's betrayal to dictate your self-worth. This is where it ends. And in that ending, something new begins. An unstoppable mindset. A mindset that no longer crumbles under the weight of setbacks. A mindset that turns every failure into fuel. Every loss into a lesson. Every wound into wisdom. Because nothing can break you now. Nothing. You do not live in the shadow of what happened. You move beyond it. You step into the light of your own becoming. And now there is only one thing left to say. You turned the tide. Now it's time to conquer the world.